Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cleverly Jones. Today we're here to discuss part 2 of Quiet on the Set. If you haven't gotten a chance, please check out my part 1 of Quiet on the Set. Should be linked above. So this episode opens up with MJ. MJ wanted to be an actress when she was young. Her mom was a legal assistant in the movie industry. She knew a lot of what went on behind the scenes in the industry and never wanted her children to be a part of it. MJ was warned by her mother that the entertainment industry can be harmful and toxic. I think her mom was just trying to protect her, and you would think as an adult that MJ would realize this. However, she didn't understand it, and she resented her mother for it. So when her daughter Brandy expressed interest in being in the entertainment industry, MJ was all for it. MJ said that Brandy absolutely loved the Amanda Show. When they were looking for kids to be in a classroom scene, she was excited that Brandy was able to book the part. On the drive home, Brandy was very excited. She said she started exchanging numbers with the other cast members and some of the crew. Now this crew included a PA named Jason. I'm not sure why they would exchange or she would allow her daughter to exchange information with a grown man. To me, this wasn't acceptable. Even if he could get her in on the show, that should have been between parents and the PA assistant, not between the child and the PA. After a couple of months of Brandy and Jason emailing back and forth, one day Brandy was sitting at the computer and suddenly snapped it shut. She got up and ran into her bedroom and slammed the door. MJ said that Brandy was crying and stated that she got an email from Jason. The email was a picture of him unclothed, doing inappropriate things to himself. He told Brandy that he sent it to her because he wanted her to know that he was thinking about her. However, MJ decided not to call the police at the time. She didn't want to be viewed as a bad parent, and I think some of the thought process behind that was, she actually was warned. Her mom had told her, like, hey, this isn't something you want to get involved in. So I think by her placing her daughter in that situation, she felt guilt. So back to Dan Schneider. Dan created a show called What I Like About You on the WB, and the show starred 16-year-old Amanda Bynes. Dan really wanted to follow Amanda to mainstream success. However, Dan got pushed out of the writer's room on this show. However, he did remain a set producer. So at 16, Amanda was dating someone that was a lot older than her. And because of this caused a rift between her and her parents. So Amanda tried to run away, and I guess Dan assisted her with running away. Amanda's parents got really upset with Dan. And also around this time, Dan got with Amanda, and Amanda and him came up with a plan to get her emancipated. The emancipation would give Amanda a whole new level of independence. This plan took her parents completely by surprise. They weren't expecting this. However, unfortunately, when the case went to court, because of Dan's involvement, it didn't go through. The emancipation didn't happen. And this creates a huge split between Dan and Amanda's parents. Of course it would, because Dan was backing Amanda and her parents didn't feel like she needed to be emancipated at the time. Eventually, because of that, Dan's and Amanda's relationship ended. He also part ways with the show What I Like About You. Dan basically lost his ticket out of children's programming. It was a huge blow, but he returned his attention back to Nickelodeon. Dan revives all that with a whole new cast. He was able to successfully capture this energy where it just looked like everybody was having fun. However, Dan actually holds great economic and emotional power over these kids. And he often had the kids referring to him as God in different sketches. So the new cast consisted of Giovanni Samuels, and she said she knew at the time that she was the token black girl. You get Kyle Sullivan, and he had guest starred on the Amanda Show, and Dan thought he was very funny, so that's why he was cast for all that. And you get Brian Hearn. He thought that joining the cast was very freeing, but then he came to find out that that was not the reality of the show. Brian admitted that he didn't feel comfortable around Dan. And some of the scenes that Brian were in was really, really racist. And his mother, Tracy, she was often on the set, and she noticed a lot of inappropriate scenes. She also questioned why They were having kids do adult jokes. However, Tracy was seen as a problem. Tracy complained too much, and she was seen as the oddball, and she was urged to stay quiet. Brian talked about the on-air dare challenges where they would have kids eat scorpions, or it was one where they put peanut butter all over him and had the dogs lick it off, which is very weird. He hated doing those on-air challenges, and he also felt that they were very inappropriate for the kids. There was another skit they had Brian doing that was very inappropriate. It was supposed to be the youngest rapper, where they had him dressed up as a fetus, and they had him in a skin tone leotard because he had to have the appearance of being naked. Someone on the cast said, oh, you know, his, well, not the cast, the producer said that the skin tone of the leotard should be charcoal. And that hurt Brian's feelings. Of course, it would hurt anybody's feelings because we're not charcoal, we're brown. So he was very upset by that, but his makeup artist was able to calm him down and said, you know, ignore that, don't pay any attention to that. But there were many instances where Brian just felt uncomfortable on the set. So the documentary goes into how Dan became more abusive as his power grew. We get introduced to Karen Thompson. She worked with Dan on All That, The Amanda Show, and The Drake and Josh Show. She said when she worked with Dan, she felt that the bar was always being risen, and she felt as though she had to reach that bar and be good or better than anyone else there. She said you did what Dan said or you got fired. Karen said when she was on the job, she didn't eat, she didn't go to the bathroom. She said there was constant pressure to perform. However, she was promised a job and it was given to someone a lot younger than her, a white male with less experience. So at that point, Karen had enough and she quit. The documentary introduces us to Virgil Faden. He describes Dan as an egomaniac. Virgil says that Dan wanted him to quit. At first, him and Dan were really cool, but then Virgil started having some personal problems where he was going through a divorce, and he said Dan didn't even come to check on him or ask him how he was doing or any of that. Eventually, Virgil did leave, and the cast members said this was a huge blow because he was one of their favorites. He always checked on the kids and made them feel comfortable and made sure they were okay. So once Virgil left, they didn't feel like they had someone advocating for them. So the documentary cuts back to Brian. Brian is ready to start the 3rd season of All That. However, he's called down to his agent's office and he is told that he will not be brought back to All That. So he was pretty upset and actually blamed his mom. However, she actually saved him, and I think he knows that now as an adult. At the time as being a kid, he thought, yeah, my mom is, you know, she's too much, she's, you know, interfering, she's poking her nose in, so she got me, you know, fired from the set. However, now, hindsight being 2020, he realizes that his mom has saved him, you know, through the horrors of what happened to the other cast members. So we're back to Jason. Jason was described as a goofy white guy from Nebraska. However, Jason gets arrested. The police contact Brandy's mother, MJ, to see if she would allow them to speak with the detectives. Jason was a regular member of the cast. He even appeared on a number of the shows. He walked the kids around the set and they thought he was a very genuine person. However, law enforcement was tipped off to Jason's inappropriate behavior. In 2003, they searched Jason's home and found inappropriate images of kids. He also kept Ziploc bags with small tokens and things from different children. And in one of those Ziploc bags, there were notes from Brandy. MJ did allow Brandy to speak with the detectives. MJ said she wanted to find justice for Brandy and wanted Brandy to have closure. Jason was sentenced to 6 years. There were other disturbing things about Jason, but since this is YouTube, I won't go into it, so you will have to check out the documentary for more details. Jason wasn't the only cast member who was arrested. Brian Peck, who was known as Pickle Boy, was also arrested. He was an ongoing character, and he often interacted with the celebrity guests. Pickles were completely inappropriate. The way they used them in the different sketches were completely inappropriate, and they were more adult-driven jokes. They weren't for kids. And at this point, you have to ask yourself, what was Dan thinking, or was he on such of a power trip to let these sketches take place? Well, Brian worked closely with Dan. He was a dialogue coach. However, some of the cast members mentioned that Brian's jokes could be off, like they were very off-putting. The cast members also talk about attending a bar barbecue at Brian's house, and they said his house was a little bit different. He had a room dedicated to vintage toys and comic books and a Planet of the Apes shrine. However, there was a painting in a room that stuck out. The painting was of a birthday clown holding balloons. The painting was painted by John Wayne Gacy, and as we all know, he's a convicted serial killer. He killed a lot of young men. Him and Brian were actually pen pals, so I thought this was weird, and Brian was very proud of it. He actually showed it off to everyone there at the party. So months later, after the barbecue incident, the cast were performing a table read, and Dan asked the parents to leave the room. Dan talked to the kids and asked them if anything had happened to them on the set. It was odd that he made the parents leave the room, because you would think he would want them in on this conversation, but they weren't. This happens just after Brian was arrested on 11 charges of child abuse, and these charges were related to another child actor. Dan told the cast that Brian isn't going to be here anymore, and basically said, does anyone have anything else to say? Of course, the kids sat there in silence. I don't think that was an appropriate forum for them to say anything if they did feel any inappropriate behavior happened, or if they were abused. That wasn't the appropriate forum. However, inappropriateness seems to be an ongoing theme on this set. So that was the end of episode 2. Again, if you missed episode 1, make sure to check that out. I will be back for episodes 3 and 4. If you have any comments, please make sure to put them below. Please make sure to thumbs up the video, and I will see you for the next one.